tell a little bit about myself and my book and how it came about. Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. You probably already know the story. Maybe you've heard me tell it a whole bunch of times. I'm so glad you all came, but I just want to say, first of all, thank you to the Lord. Not gonna shed a tear. You watched me over here. I struggle to do things like this. Computer is not my bag. And writing a book, that's been a miracle. It's one of God's miracles. And I give him the credit because he woke me up every night at 4 o'clock and he gave me new information to put in my book. And when I took this trip, it was during COVID. And it was a time where I think we all did a lot of soul searching. We all really looked at each day and gave thanks that we were still alive. And we looked around knowing that we might be next on the list. So it was a very emotional time. It was a very quiet time. We would go out on the road. There's a mysterious person here that wishes not to be known. So we call him the driver. And so we have this strange driver that asked me to go out for a ride just to break up the boredom of isolation. So I said, sure, I could do a little ride in the country. Well, the ride became a 6-month, 4,000 miles, 1,600 photographs before we got to the end of our goal. And we realized as we started out that there were all these little towns. We thought we knew them. We'd been in many of them many times over. But we finally, and we found out, even though there was no people around and it was like ghost towns, we were finding joy in amongst all the pain, the suffering, the sorrow, the tears. We were finding the joy, and we started discussing how can we share this with everybody? How can they know the same joy? So in the back of our mind, we started putting this idea together, and we wanted to hit all these little towns along the way. And because we wanted to be back in Sioux Falls every night, we just drew this 50-mile imaginary radius around Sioux Falls and just started going from town to town. That got a little bit haphazard because we didn't know where we were going, and so we oftentimes found ourselves in the same spot. So then I would sit down at night and I would start mapping out the communities and finding a way to put them together in little groups so it'd be easier to go into all these communities and not have all this extra driving. Now we had a mission. It wasn't just out calmly driving around. So it took us to many, many little places. The number one question that I'm always asked is, which was your favorite? Well, that's a hard question to answer because for me, each town, each little community offered their own story, offered something new, different, something unique, wonderful. And so when I finished the story, my heart was filled with love for all the different communities. And that's where the hearts come in at, because I sat down after we finished our journey and I wrote the last chapter first. Now I guess you don't do that normally in writing, but I was just so filled with gratitude, blessings, and joy that it just rolled out. And then I thought, now how do I make my story match the end of my story? So then I had to go back and put the puzzle pieces together and bring this story into the final chapter. It was just a beautiful, I cried many times through my story because the Lord was talking to me and he was telling me things. The story doesn't end there because I couldn't let it go. I wanted a heart in every community. So I went out and literally the last day before but before all the hearts got put out there, I had a goal and I wanted a heart in each town before the next step that I was going to take. So anyway, the last day I had 5 or 6 hearts and I wasn't feeling well. I had indigestion problems or something was going on. So, but I was determined, and I had a meeting at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So I got in the car and I drove all the way up to Wentworth, and I drove all over, and I needed a keeper of the heart to watch over the heart in that community and take care of it. So I would literally chase down somebody on a lawnmower and I would say, sir, will you help me with this heart? And he said, well, sure, I'll do that. He said, I'll just put it right over here. I said, great. And I'd buzz down the road to the next place, and I actually ended up, and I was, this was a place in Corson, and Corson's a very hard, teeny little town, hard to find somebody that will put a heart somewhere in Corson. And so as I'm driving through my last stop, there was a bar. And I left that till the final, but I gotta have somebody do my heart. So I raced into this bar and I said, sir, he said, I'm the owner. I said, well, would you do something for me? But I got the heart in Corson, and it's right out there, you'll find it. But anyway, and this fellow kept calling me saying, are you gonna be back in time for the meeting? So I raced back, and I pulled in, and I'm downstairs using the restroom because I didn't have time to stop. I was in such a hurry, I was gonna miss this important meeting. And so he called me on my phone, and I said, I'm sorry, sir, I'll be right there. I'm in the restroom. I've been in my car since 9 this morning. And I said, I'll be right there. So I kind of blew into his office, and at that point in time, he helped me prepare the final leg and get the book going to be put to Amazon. So anyway, I've been planning this journey all along. I was so excited to get it out because it's summer and I wanted everybody to take the journey. Well, I ordered the books, and lo and behold, Amazon locked me out of my account. So they were still selling my book, a little book here and there, but I, the author, couldn't get into my account. I couldn't order books. So it took me 3 weeks before I finally broke down the walls in Amazon and got through and got my account back. And so they sent the books, but an author doesn't get their books in 2 or 3 days. We have to wait probably 2-3 weeks or better to get our books. So it just kept getting later and later.